Say good morning again.
Good morning.
Thank you so much. We obviously have a distinguished guest with us this morning, and he doesn't have a lot of time, and so we want to move quickly, but I guess with meaning. So I do want to welcome the Honorable John Lewis and all those who came to attendance, all those who came with him, his director, Mr. Ward, all the folks from the Georgia Charter School Association, our board of directors is here. We have many parents here. Thank you for coming. And thank you for the staff and faculty for being very patient and flexible. And of course, to our scholars, because that is why we're here. And I thought about what this day was. And it couldn't be, as I said this morning, a dog and pony show. Because I don't, and I told my scholars this. I said, what are we really here for? And all I could think about was it had to be about you seeing the fruit in some way of what we've done. To know that we kind of get that this is hard work. But it isn't as hard as the work you do. And so, everybody's here. Our warts may show. Every kid is here. The kids who act well every day, and the kids who sometimes have it rough. They're all here because they're all ours. And we have to fight every day, staying up late, getting up early, to make sure that we do the best by them. Our parents have to drive. We don't have a bus, but they make it here. Our kids, many of them, have things that they deal with at home that's a struggle, but they show up every day. And when we think about getting tired, when I think about getting tired, as much as I think we all take for granted what you do, I remember that struggle was much harder than the one we deal with every day. And so I can't quit. And so that's what we try to teach them. We try to teach them math and science, but we try to teach them to stick with it. Because hard work is the only way they're going to get there. And it's not just our school, it's not just because we're a charter school. We're all educators. They're all our kids. The struggle that you fought for, the fight that you fought to get us to the point where we would have great education and great opportunity, that part is still going on. Our young men are struggling, and you, your staff, all the people in the charter school, everybody here knows the story. And it's why we're here. And so we try to instill in them that they have to be, in some sense, unfortunately different, because the norm, the bar for the norm is too low. And so we want them to be different until one day they aren't different when they're excellent. And that's only going to come from work. So today we just kind of want to give you a sense of what we expect from them every day. And we did something at our induction ceremony, which we have every year, and we'll give you a sense of that. Not to show off, but to know this is what we do. So I'm going to start with my sixth graders. Sixth graders?
Yes, sir!
Please rise. So there's a poem called See It Through that we've taught them. And it gives them a sense, we hope every day as it sinks in, day after day, that really they're going to face challenges. But the challenge is not what matters, it's what they do with the challenge and how they face them. Mr. Murray. Sixth graders.
Yes,
Please be seated. Now we'll have young Mr. Rashid Muhammad come in, and he's going to speak about what FLA means to him, but basically, he did more than that. That's what we sort of said. Come up with something. We don't really tell them what to say. We believe they'll figure it out. And he actually tried to weave in a little bit more. Not so much about just what FLA means, but what about this day, or really, in some sense, what the Honorable Congressman Lewis represents for all of us. So I'm going to let Mr. Muhammad come and do his thing.
Good morning, Congressman John Lewis, board members, faculty, staff, parents, and Fulton Leadership Academy scholars. Good morning. My name is Rashid Muhammad. I am 12 years old and I am an 8th grade scholar here at Fulton Leadership Academy. I was looking at some pictures of my 6th grade induction ceremony into Fulton Leadership Academy. One of my fellow colleagues, or scholars, said that we looked younger 2 years ago. He further stated, "We have been through a lot." I agreed, but that brought several thoughts to my mind. I began to contemplate on all of the anniversaries of events that have occurred this week and will forever have an impact on our lives. I also thought it cannot be a coincidence that we are all here today, on this day, to seize the opportunity to create not only memories that will last a lifetime, but to make a difference that will last a lifetime. We all know that this week marks the kidnapping and brutal murder of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old boy who was visiting his family for the summer in the state of Mississippi. It was this event and countless others that led to what is known as the Civil Rights Movement. This week also marks the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. There were also featured speeches and performances by John Lewis, Mahalia Jackson, Josephine Baker, Joan Baez, and Bob Dylan. Thinking over these events made me recall how we must, as scholars, endeavor to find our path and stay on it. A chance 14-year-old Emmett Till did not get. How the successes we experience are only by the grace of God and are only because of the sacrifices our families and leaders have made for us all, which is fulfilling the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As I drifted back to the present, I thought, then, in the pictures of which I spoke earlier, we were young men who did not know which course to chart. Now we know which direction to travel. Our founder, Mrs. Richardine Golden Anderson, Principal Dr. Gavin Sams, and other Fulton Leadership Academy faculty and staff work as public servants and not just educators in this community. They serve the student body by not only focusing on our grades, CRCT scores, and sports, but focus on building character and building productive citizens. This school absolutely, positively impacts our quality of life. I invite everyone here to take a look around. We, the scholars of FLA, are the future husbands, fathers, CEOs, doctors, engineers, lawyers, and board members. We look forward to stepping into the legacy that you all worked so hard to continue in this place and at this time. Now buckle your seatbelt, put your seat in the upright position, and prepare for takeoff. Fulton Leadership Academy is about to soar into greater heights. We are flying from boyhood to manhood. Thank you.
Yes, he wrote that. So there's another poem that speaks to, in short, doing what others say is not possible. So I'm going to ask my 8th graders to put it together. 8th graders.
Yes, sir.
Please rise. Somebody said it couldn't be done.
Somebody said it couldn't be done by 8th grade, yes. Somebody said it couldn't be done, but he with a chuckle replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one, because when he said so, we tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of regret on his face. If he worried, he did it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Well, you never do that. At least no one have done it." So he took off his coat, he took off his hat, and first thing we knew he'd begun it. With a look of a chin and a bit of a grin, with time he got it and quit it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands of promises I failure. There are thousands of points you one by one, the names that wait to sell you. Just buckle right in with the face of a grin, and just hand come and go to it. Just start to sing as you tackle the thing that couldn't be done, and you'll do it.
Good job.
Eighth graders.
Yes, sir.
Please be seated. And so very quickly we will have one of our parents, very active parents, Ms. Kylie Carter, come up and give a couple of statements, and then we'll have one of our students introduce our own guest, and then we'll be there. Ms. Carter.
When I came in this morning, Dr. Sams asked me what would I say this morning, and quite honestly, I told him I didn't know. I was going to let my heart be led by God. And that's where my heart was led when we found FLA. I get very passionate about this school, not because my son goes here, not because my nephew is here, but because this is a place where they said it couldn't be done. And it's amazing to me. I am college educated. I have a master's. I've gone to a Division I school. I come from a small town in Mississippi raised by a single mother with 2 other sisters. So it's not that it can't be done. It wasn't allowed to be done by so many of my friends because they saw a path that was put before them and they chose that path. But when this path is put before parents that are just like me, parents that are different from me, but parents that have a vision and a thought that my child deserves something different, why is it that a school can decide to build a building, a multi-million-dollar facility on another side of town, and do this for a group of or a dynamic of people that excludes people that look like my child? Why is it that they can pass bills and award schools for doing agriculture when there are seeds that are planted here that will last a lifetime, that will change lives, that will be presidents, CEOs, lawyers, doctors? But they said it wasn't unique enough. It wasn't something that has any meaning. It's not something that needs to be done. But yet I look at the statistics that say most of the children that look just like my son are in places that are leading to jail, in places that lead to murder, in places that lead to a life of crime. Because they tell me constantly that these kids that look just like my child, they don't have a place for them. But yet they tell me they're doing this in mainstream schools. They tell me the regular public school system is taking care of this for these students. I beg to differ, and not that I'm the brightest bulb in the chandelier or the smartest, just that I can open my eyes and look and see that that is not true. And I just the opportunity to have a choice. You know, we have choices. My son alone has choices. He's been offered this and offered that, to go to this school and go to that school, but we buckle down because there's a choice that's greater than that, and that's a choice for you to be directed in the way that you are supposed to be, looking the way that you look, and being the black man that you are. Not the statistics that tell me that you're going to jail, that you're going to have a child before you graduate, that you're not going to do anything but work a minimum wage job, that you're not going to be able to do anything that you've aspired to do, like President Obama, like Congressman John Lewis, like all the authors, the poets, the singers, the dancers, all those people. You mean to tell me you can't? I choose to believe different. FLA was the choice that we chose so that our child could see something different. We believe in the school, we believe in the faculty, we believe in it if it's in a church, we believe in it if we're having meetings outside in tents or portables. We believe in the vision and the mission of the school. And we believe and we thank you, Congressman Lewis, and everyone that has a right to vote to give us this choice. Because we want something different for our kids, and America wants something different and needs something different from our boys. Thank you.
Congressman John Lewis. For more than 40 years, Congressman John Lewis has been the vanguard of progressive social and political causes. He is most known for his contribution to the civil rights movement. He has dedicated his life to building a community in which people of different races, religions, and ethnicities can work together to ensure that the basic human rights of all individuals are protected. As a student at Fisk University, Congressman Lewis began his public quest to end discrimination by organizing sit-ins and coordinating other efforts of nonviolent protest. In 1961, Congressman Lewis volunteered to participate in a campaign to test desegregation in interstate transportation facilities. The Freedom Rides, they were called, began in Greyhound buses in Washington, D.C., and transported black and white passengers throughout the South. In 1963, as chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Congressman John Lewis was recognized as one of the Big Six, along with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., A. Philip Randolph, Whitney Young, James Farmer, and Roy Wilkins. In August of 1963, in front of several 100,000 people on the National Mall, Congressman Lewis delivered a moving speech which catapulted him to the forefront of national spotlight. Despite more than 40 arrests, physical attacks, and serious injuries, Congressman Lewis remained a disciple of the nonviolent philosophy. After leaving SNCC in 1966, he remained active in the civil rights movement as an associate director of the Field Foundation and a volunteer in the Southern Regional Council's voter registration program. Congressman Lewis went on to become a director of the Voter Education Project. Under his leadership, the VEP transformed the nation's political climate by adding 4 million minorities to the voters' rolls. Congressman John Lewis' first political victory came in 1981 when he was elected to the Atlanta City Council. As a council member, Congressman Lewis focused on ethics in government and neighborhood preservation. After 5 years on the council, Congressman Lewis left to pursue a U.S. congressional seat. In November of 1986, Congressman Lewis was elected to represent Georgia's 5th Congressional District, which includes all of Atlanta, parts of Fulton, DeKalb, and Clayton County. In 1996, Congressman Lewis ran unopposed for his sixth term and is currently serving his 13th term. Congressman Lewis earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Religion and Philosophy from Fisk University in 1963 and is a graduate of the American Baptist Theological Seminary of Nashville, Tennessee. He holds honorary degrees from Fisk University, Morehouse College, Columbia University, Clark Atlanta University, Brandeis University, Princeton University, and Williams College. Congressman John Lewis has been honored with the Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolent Peace Award, in addition to the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award for Lifetime Achievement and the Moral Courage Award. It is a great honor and privilege for me to present to you the great and renowned Congressman John Lewis.
Congressman, my neighbor, members of the board, staff, teachers, and all of you handsome scholars. All of the parents, I must say that I'm delighted, very happy, and very pleased to be here. I am honored to be here. I feel more than lucky, as I said to some of you earlier. I feel very blessed to be here. To be here at the Fulton Leadership Academy, here on this piece of real estate, in this place, at this time. We represent part of what I like to call the beloved community, what Dr. King would call the beloved community, an all-inclusive community. I wish when I was growing up in rural Alabama, many, many years ago when I had all of my hair and I was kind of excited that I would have had an opportunity to attend a school like this. Now, I know I need a haircut. 2 or 3 of my staff people told me yesterday, and one told me this morning. But I've been trying to wait to the end of the week to get a haircut. I don't have that much hair left, but the little I have left grow back so fast. And next week is the Democratic Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I want to get a fresh haircut tomorrow on Saturday because I'm going there late Sunday, and I want to look fresh. It's the first time I explain my lack of a haircut. I didn't grow up in a big city like Atlanta, or College Park, or East Point. I grew up in rural Alabama, 50 miles from Montgomery, outside of a little place called Troy. My father was a sharecropper, a tenant farmer. But back in 1944, when I was 4 years old, and I do remember when I was 4, my father had saved $300, and with the $300, he bought 110 acres of land. We still own that land today. I grew up in a very large family with 6 brothers and 3 sisters. Wonderful mother, wonderful father. We worked very hard on that farm. It was my responsibility on the farm to care for chickens, and I fell in love with raising the chickens. I don't know how many of you scholars here know anything about raising chickens. I know some of you probably can eat some chicken, Kentucky Fried, Popeye, maybe Chick-fil-A, but you don't know anything about raising chicken. Let me tell you what I had to do as a young boy. When I was only about 6 or 7 years old, I became very, very good at raising chickens. I had to take the fresh eggs and mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and wait for 3 long weeks for the little chicks to hatch. Some of you smart scholars may be saying, now, John Lewis, why do you mark the fresh egg with a pencil before you place them under the setting hen? Well, from time to time, another hen would get on that same nest, and there would be some more eggs. And you had to be able to tell the fresh eggs from the eggs that were already under the setting hen. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
You don't follow me. You really do follow me?
Yes, sir.
Very good. When these little chicks were hatched, I would fool these setting hens. I would cheat on these setting hens. And when I look back on it, it was not the right thing to do. I would take these little chicks, put them in a box with a lantern, raise them on their own, or give them to another hen. Get some more fresh eggs, mark them with a pencil, place them under the setting hen, and encourage the setting hen to still in there for for another free. I kept on fooling and cheating on you, sitting there. It was not the right thing to do. It was not the moral thing to do. It was not the most loving thing to do. It was not the most nonviolent thing to do. It was not the democratic thing to do. But I was never quite able to save $18.98 to order the most inexpensive incubator from the Silver Book store. Now, as young scholars, you wouldn't know anything about the Silver Book catalog, but maybe some of your teachers, maybe some of the board members, some of the parents may be old enough to know about the Silver Book catalog. It's this big book, heavy, thick. Some people call it the ordering book. Other people call it the wish book. I wish I had this, I wish I had that. So I just kept on wishing. But as a young child, about 8 or 9 years old, I wanted to be a minister. I wanted to preach the gospel. So with the help of my brothers and sisters and my first cousin, we would gather all of our chickens together in the chicken yard, like you're gathered here in this hall. And we would have church. My brothers and sisters and cousins would help make up the audience, the congregation, along with the chicken. And then I would start speaking or preaching, and some of these chickens would bow their head. Some of these chickens would shake their head. They never quite said amen. But I'm convinced that some of those chickens that I preached to in the 40s and the 50s tended to listen to me much better than some of my colleagues listen to me today in the Congress. As a matter of fact, some of those chickens are just a little more productive. At least they produce eggs. But that's enough of that story. But growing up there on that farm, and we would visit the little town of Troy, only 2 miles from our home. Visit Tuskegee, only about 45 miles from our home. Visit Montgomery, about 50 miles away. We saw those signs that said, white men, colored men, white women, colored women, white waiting, colored waiting. And I would come home and ask my mother, my father, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, why? Why? They would say, that's the way it is. Don't get in the way. Don't get in trouble. But one day in 1955, 15 years old, in the 10th grade, I heard about Rosa Parks. I heard the words of Martin Luther King Jr. on an old radio. I was deeply inspired by the action of Rosa Parks, by the action of the people in Montgomery, by the words and leadership of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When I went away to school, I met Rosa Parks in 1957 at the age of 17. The next year, in 1958, I met Martin Luther King Jr. You know what I did when I was 17 years old, scholars? I wrote a letter to Dr. King. I didn't tell my mother, didn't tell my father. I didn't tell any of my teachers, I didn't tell any of my brothers and sisters. I wanted to attend a little college called Troy State College. It's not known as Troy University. Only 2 miles from my home. Submitted my application, my high school transcript. I never heard a word from the college. So I wrote a letter to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., told him I needed his help. He wrote me back and sent me a round-trip Greyhound bus ticket, invited me to come to Montgomery to meet with him. In the meantime, I had been accepted at a little college in Nashville, Tennessee. After being there for about 6 weeks, one of my teachers was a friend of Dr. King. They both had graduated from Morehouse College in Atlanta. He informed Dr. King that I was in Nashville. Dr. King wrote me back and suggested that I was home for spring break to come and see him. On a Saturday morning in March 1958, by this time I'm 18 years old, my father drove me to the Greyhound bus station, I boarded the bus, and traveled the 50 miles from Troy to Montgomery. And a young African-American lawyer by the name of Fred Gray, who was the lawyer for Rosa Parks, for Dr. King, and later became our lawyer during the Freedom Ride and during the march from Selma to Montgomery, met me and drove me to the First Baptist Church in downtown Montgomery, pastored by the Reverend Grant Anthony. and ushered me into the office of the church. And I saw Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Reverend Ralph Abernathy standing behind the desk. I was so scared. I didn't know what to say or what to do. And Dr. King said, "Are you the boy from Troy? Are you John Lewis?" And I spoke up and said, "Dr. King, I am John Robert Lewis." I gave my whole name. I wanted him to know that I was the right person. And that was the beginning of my involvement in the civil rights movement. The rest is history. I said to you, scholars, you're blessed. You're more than lucky. You are blessed to have an institution like this academy. Do your best. Obey your principal, obey your teachers, obey your parents, and never, ever get lost in the sea of despair. Keep your faith. Study. Read. Work hard. We didn't have an iPad. We hadn't heard of the internet. We didn't have a Facebook. Cellular telephone. But we used what we had to change America, to make our country and make our world a better place. You will be the leaders of the 21st century. You will be the lawyers, the doctors, the teachers, the scientists, the engineers. You will be the elected officials, the mayors, the county commission, a member of Congress, President of the United States of America, ambassador. Dream dreams and never ever give up on your dream. A few days ago, I was in Washington, and President Clinton was hosting a little gathering, a little fundraiser for me, and hundreds of people came. And President Obama was in the next room having a little gathering. And he came in and he said to Bill Clinton, he said, "Bill, what are you doing here? And John, what are you doing here?" And someone had told me when I was preaching to those chickens that one day I would have an opportunity to stand between two presidents, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. The point I'm trying to make, you can be what you want to be. Amen. There's many, there's hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of young African-American men, Latino men, Asian American men, Native American, and young white men did not have the opportunity that you enjoy. Be of good courage. Stay away from violence. Stay away from gangs. Stay away from drugs. And hang in there. Now, during the movement, I was beaten. I was left bloody and unconscious. I thought I saw death. I thought I was going to die on that bridge in Selma 7 years ago. But I think God Almighty kept me here for a purpose. 10 of us spoke at the March on Washington. I spoke on the 6th. Dr. King spoke on the 10th. And out of the 10 people that spoke on August 28, 1963, 49 years ago. And next year we just celebrate the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. I'm the only one still around. I must do all I can to help make our world better for all of us. Hang in there. Study. Be kind. Sometimes I wonder, why are we so mean to each other? Is there something in the food we eat? Is it in the water we drink? Is it in the air we breathe? Can we just sort of get along and something happen? Say, excuse me? Pardon me? Can we just say, well, let's be friends. Let's be kind to each other. Let me give you one example. I'm speaking at the Democratic Convention next week. I don't know what I'm going to say, but former campaign people will give me some ideas of what I should say. I'm going to be speaking in Charlotte, North Carolina one night next week, on the same night that the President speaks, next Thursday night. A short distance from where the convention is being held in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's a small town called Rock Hill, South Carolina. On May 9th, 1961, and I want young scholars to understand this. In 1961, the same year that President Barack Obama was born, black people and white people couldn't be seated together on a Greyhound bus. Couldn't be seated together at a lunch counter in a restaurant at the Greyhound bus station. Couldn't use the same restroom facility. My seatmate on that bus, we left Washington, D.C., traveled through Virginia, through North Carolina, into Rock Hill, South Carolina. My young seatmate was a young white gentleman who's a close and dear friend of mine today. The two of us tried to enter a so-called white waiting room. We were attacked, beaten, left lying in a pool of blood. In February of 2009, one of the guys that attacked us came to my congressional office in Washington with his son, who had been encouraging his father to seek after people that he had beaten and attacked. He said, Mr. Lewis, I'm one of the guys, I'm one of the individuals who beat you. I'm sorry, he said. I want to apologize. I want you to forgive me. The son started crying. He started crying. I started crying. He hugged me. The son did. Since then, I've seen this gentleman 4 different times. He called me brother, and I called him brother. That's what, as a nation and as a people, we must do. Lay down the bitterness, the division. As Dr. King would say, hate is too heavy a burden to bear. And create a sense of community, a sense of family. We are one people, we are one family, we are one house. We all live in the same house. Not just the American house, but the world house. So hang in there. And one day I wanted to see you here in Georgia or in Washington or someplace, and you will say, I came, said to me, that I came to the academy, and I'm studying to be a doctor. I'm a lawyer now. I'm running for mayor. I'm governor of Georgia. I'm on my way to the United States Senate. I'm teaching. I'm a successful business person. You can be what you want to be. Just keep the faith. Keep pushing, keep pulling, and help create the beloved community. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
that's something we have to incorporate. We try to, but hearing it from you, I hope, resonates. Because at this age, they don't get it. So we have to help them. They tend to engage in things with each other that really fall so far below the importance of the things we're talking about. Somebody can step on a shoe and they want to get them tight. But if you can forgive somebody who did that to you, then certainly they can forgive somebody who bumps them in the hallway with a book bag. Isn't that right, Scott?
Yes, sir.
So we're at the end. Very quickly, I want to, since people don't get to see them often, I ask our board members to please stand so we at least know their faces when we see them and know that they are here working hard. The last thing I want to do is very quickly have our scholars go through what we try to teach them. It's on our boards. They're not there yet, but there are things that we expect them to understand. As opposed to telling them what not to do, we want to tell them what they need to become. So I'm going to ask them all to please rise. FLA scholars?
Yes, sir.
Please rise. And we call these our 10 commands of good conduct. Started off with commandments. I didn't think that was appropriate. A little too much, so I shortened commands, but nonetheless, is what we expect of them and what we hope they expect of themselves underneath our 3 principles of fortitude, leadership, and achievement. So scholars, repeat after me. I will be honest without fear. I will remain positive in speech, thought, and action. I will refuse to distract or be distracted. I will take responsibility for helping other scholars. I will be a gentleman to every woman and girl. I will take responsibility for myself and my actions. I will make things better than I found them. I will follow directions the first time. I will be on time, organized, and prepared. I will work hard as I can to be the best that I can. Thank you, gentlemen. Last but not least, we talk about not making any excuses and manning up and just putting your nose to the grindstone and getting it done. So FLA scholars.
Yes, sir.
What is your motto?
No excuses, man up, get it done.
One more time, FLA scholars.
Yes, sir.
What's your motto?
No excuses, man up, get it done.
Very good, FLA scholars.
Yes, sir.
Please be seated. So we're at the end, and I'm just going to say thank you again to the Honorable Congressman Lewis. And we're going to give you, a little school that could, we don't have much. So we're going to give you some information, but we put together a video that we'll give for you to take with you that we hope sort of gives you a sense of who we are and what we're trying to be. And it highlights in some sense what you've seen here today. But I do want to say again how much we appreciate all that you do, all that you have done. And I have never asked anybody else. It is true. In my life, I have never asked a single person to sign anything because I'm just, not impressed usually. I just see people put their pants on one leg at a time like me, and I know a lot of people. I met a lot of people. And I said that this morning to the scholars. So this is the first time in my life I'm asking somebody to sign something because I'm impressed. I'm forcing Mr. Lewis, if you could. faculty and staff again since they're here. Wave your hands, faculty and staff. And with that, I will say thank you all for coming, and I hope that if nothing else, we all remember today and every day that this fight is not over. And if we have examples like this still among us, we have no excuse. We need to man up and woman up and just get it done. Our children are watching. They need to know that we have no quitters, that we will not falter, we will not fail them. See, our time, our table has been set. What we do with what we have is all about them. The time, the money, every resource, every ounce of what we have. When we get tired, we have to remember this thing, what we heard today. Because they're watching. If we get tired, they'll get tired. If we get angry, they're going to get angry. But if we stay even, if we stay on point, if we stay calm, focused, and purposeful, so will they. We have no excuses. Because the charge we have has already been laid before us. The hard work has already been done. We don't need to complain. We need to get to work. Somebody say amen. Amen.